Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Very interesting article, and it is about Victoria Nuland. If you're not familiar with who Victoria Nuland is, this is the right place to be, because I will inform you who Victoria Nuland is and what her role was in 2013 and 2014 during the coup in Ukraine. Remember that one? Yes, when the legitimate democratically elected government of Ukraine was overthrown by internal forces with the help of outside agencies, which would make the ones from inside, the domestic forces, traitors. That's a definition. Imagine that in the United States you would have a group helped by the Chinese intelligence to overthrow a legitimate democratically elected government. And how would you call these guys here? Traitors. And if the second they take power through a bloody coup, it gets recognized by China. Surprise, surprise. So let's see who this Nuland is, okay? And I'm going to start with this article where it comes from Russia Today, from today, the 26th of January 2023. Nuland reveals what Russia must do, end quote, for sanctions relief. State Department official with ties to Ukraine laid out the unlikely scenario to the US Senate. So she comes in front of the Senate. She looks very, I don't know, in Romania we have a say, the beauty of the soul could be seen on the person's face. What do you think? Anyway, so this she is the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland. Okay, she showed up in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Thursday, and she had a little conversation with Rand Paul, Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul. But I'm going to start with the end of this article, and I'm going to tell you this. Nuland first came into the spotlight in December 2013 when she endorsed nationalist protesters at Kiev's Maidan Square by delivering them snacks. 2 months later, in February 2014, a recording emerged of her discussing who should run Ukraine with the US ambassador in Kiev, Geoffrey Pyatt or Pyatt, I don't know, doesn't really matter, a weasel anyway. Nuland was famously dismissive of the EU, European Union, and talked about then Vice President Joe Biden helping, and I'm quoting, midwife this thing, end quote, with the UN. 3 weeks later, Ukrainian nationalists would overthrow the elected government and put in charge the very people Nuland had discussed with the US ambassador in Kiev, Geoffrey Pyatt. Now, she said about the European Union, when she was asked what would the European Union say, she said something like F the European Union. So this is her. Now, like always, I would like to look into her, bio to see who is she. So let's go. Victoria Nuland. Here she is. Beautiful. So, she's an American diplomat currently serving as Undersecretary of State of Political Affairs. Okay, and I'm going to early life and education. That's very interesting. Okay? And we find that Nuland was born in 1961 to Sherwin B. Nuland, a surgeon born to Eastern European Jewish immigrants. Okay? And a Christian British native mother. No problem. Now she is obviously under, what's his name, Blinken, right? So Blinken, we have him here. Anthony Blinken. So let's see what this guy is up to, right? And we find out that he's an American government official and diplomat serving as the United States Secretary of State, all right? And if you look down at early life and education, we find that Blinken was born on August 16 in Yonkers, New York, to Jewish parents. Nothing special. Let's go back to the initial articles. Now we know who Victoria is and kind of know Anthony to a certain extent. And we know who Zelensky is, we know who Zhmyhal is, the vice president of Ukraine, we know who Reznikov, the minister of defense of Ukraine is, and we know who Yermak is, who is the president of Ukraine's kind of chief of staff. That's how he is. Anyway, so let's see what Nuland did. So Washington might consider lifting sanctions if Moscow withdraws troops from Ukraine and hands over all territory claimed by Kiev. U.S. blah blah blah, Victoria Nuland told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Thursday. She added that in her opinion, Russian President Vladimir Putin is guilty of war crimes. Well, opinions and opinions. Facts are different. During the hearing on the ongoing conflict, Nuland said that she believed Ukraine could defeat Russia, but I would like to know how, noting that, and I'm quoting, Ukraine will define what winning is. Ah, okay. So I get the bloody nose and I'm knocked out. I just come back to my senses and say, hey, I won actually. Kentucky Republican Rand Paul asked Nuland at one point if she favored lifting some sanctions against Russian officials in the interest of diplomacy. Paul reminded Nuland she had been sanctioned by Russia herself, which was resolved before her 2021 visit to Moscow. And I'm quoting, in the context of a Russian decision to negotiate seriously and withdraw its forces from Ukraine and return territory, I would certainly favor, and I believe Secretary Blinken, the one I just mentioned, would also favor sanctions relief, end quote. Nuland replied, misunderstanding Paul's point. So, Nuland also insisted that Putin is, and I'm quoting, certainly guilty of prosecuting war crimes, end quote, prompting Paul to ask how serious the State Department was about peace, if it instead on what amounted to unconditional surrender. And I'm quoting, I would cite the president of Kosovo, of Bosnia, of Rwanda, where we, United States, have successfully supported wars winding down through diplomatic means while also pursuing justice, Nuland replied. So you remember what justice, how justice was implemented in Kosovo and in Serbia, right? Remember that one? Yeah, okay. So if that's kind of justice imposed by illegally bombing a country, thanks, but no thanks. So Nuland told us if Russia behaves like a pupil, like a student, the principal or the teacher will get him off the corner of the room and maybe have him sit at his desk. But if he's not a good boy, a good student, Nuland will keep him over there standing facing the corner of the classroom. Because the boy is a weak, feeble, right, ugly, stupid boy, right? Which in this case is, you know who. Russia. So if you treat nations like that, and the nation can punch you in the face, I don't know, isn't that irresponsible? She speaks with Russia as she speaks to, I don't know, Kosovo or Ukraine. So these are the people who are shaping the greatest country in the world's diplomacy. This, Nuland. All right? Keep that in mind. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.